after last night's recoupling, I'm sure that all of the Islanders are in need of therapy. And here to talk about that with me is my friend of the podcast, and therapist, marriage and family therapist, Janae Tipton. Welcome to the pod.
I'm so excited to be back, especially after last night's episode.
What an episode. Let's start here. For everybody who doesn't know me, if this is your first time tuning into the episode, my name is Leah. I'm the host of Positively Uncensored, and we're here to break down episode 12 of Love Island. I have Janae on to sort of provide a different perspective. I want to know, I want to talk about the mess, but I
Yeah.
also want to realize why this mess is happening. And I feel like you will help us figure that out. So
Yeah.
together, we will get through this.
Let's go. I'm excited.
So let's start here. What did you think about last night's episode?
I was thankful to the producers for giving us an hour and 22 minutes, and being able to see the drama, the game, the recoupling, and the elimination. What an episode. Where should I start? I mean, we could
Wait,
start.
that's so true. I didn't even realize how many different components they gave us because selfishly, I was upset that the episode didn't just start with the recoupling. But
Mm,
when you lay it
so
out like that,
true.
there was a lot. It was a production.
It was a lot to take in from last night's episode, and we got a little taste of every single person's relationship last night. I will say maybe except Sierra and Nick. We didn't get like a really big anything about them, but everybody else they touched on, and I thought it was an excellent produced episode.
Now let's figure this out. Do you think that there are any strong couples in the villa? And if so, who is the strongest couple right now?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I actually have in my notes that at the current moment, let's just say before the recoupling, everybody is everyone's placeholder. There is no strong couple in the villa at all.
Agreed.
Nobody. Everybody is waiting for the next bombshell. Everybody is waiting for Casa Amor. Nobody is really paired up with their person that they truly enjoy. And I think that's why people might be interpreting the season as boring because there's no real love matches. There's drama, but there's not a lot of like there's nobody that we're rooting for. And that can kind of drag down Love Island a little bit. But I will say, I have not been bored at all this season. I have been thoroughly tuned in, and I'm very hopeful because I do feel like there are a few people in the house that will find matches at the end, and they'll be true matches. But
And who do you
nobody
think those
is right
people
now.
are? Can you give us a hint?
Yeah, I think Shelly,
Mhm.
because Shelly goes about the process in a very mature manner. Shelly is not jumping the gun.
Agreed.
She sees the BS between Austin and Ace.
Hmm.
And so I think Shelly will eventually find a match. I think Alandrea will eventually find a match, and I would love to talk to you about Alandrea. And then I think Nick. I think Nick will find a match. I think Nick is really going through the process truly. He's exploring relationships. As much as I would like to say that Nick and Sierra are a love match, they're not, but they're having a good time.
Is there anybody in the villa who you think could possibly, for lack of a better words, match Nick's freak? Because I think Nick may potentially be somebody who's just not really monogamous. I think he's non-monogamous. And we've heard that he was talking in the villa about being in open relationships. Belle Dasha said that in one of her interviews. So I'm wondering, do you think that he is a monogamous guy, number one? And do you think that there's anybody in the villa who also may be on that wave?
So outside of like the interviews and things that we've heard from Belle Dasha, I Nick has not given me anything that says that he's like non-monogamous. So far, he seems like the type to settle in at
I
least.
agree.
I think Amaya would have been that person to match his freak though, but that kind of match never happened. So, and I would love to talk about Amaya today too. But yeah, I think Amaya would have been a good match for Nick. They just never paired up.
So do you think that Amaya is getting too much flack for the decision that she made at the end of the episode? And what do you think about Amaya? Is she an empath? Is it perhaps like I don't know. I don't know if lack of emotional regulation is like the right thing, but maybe just like over like feel like beyond empath, like feels everything. What do you think about Amaya?
I think Amaya is intelligent. I think Amaya is funny.
Me too.
I think Amaya has an accent and it's throwing people off.
Hmm.
Amaya from the jump has not changed her stance, has not changed what she believes in, has not changed what she wavers on. She has been consistent from the jump. Sorry, my dog is doing
That's
weird things.
okay.
Excuse me.
I figured it was Margarita.
um, I've enjoyed Amaya from the jump. When she had that disagreement with Ace and Ace was trying to talk to her, I think a lot of people overlooked the fact that Amaya laughed. Like when he put up his boundary, she said, "Oh, okay, yes." And then immediately she was like, "What the fuck are we doing?" Amaya is not stupid. So I
Agreed.
really appreciated her last night for one, calling Charlie out and being like, "You're only doing this because you're feeling a little frantic. You don't mean it. You need to go talk to Hannah. You don't want to be in a match with me. You're throwing a little temper tantrum." That was very mature, very grown up. That wasn't just about girlhood. That truly was about seeing somebody whose feelings were hurt and not taking advantage of those feelings. Because if we all know, like Amaya doesn't have a match either. Amaya is on the line as well. She
Hmm.
could have copped out and went with Charlie. She didn't. Now, her decision to remove Charlie, I literally put in my notes like, "Girl, what are you doing?"
I put confusion with like a question mark in mine.
Right? But I think that Amaya I think she made the decision based solely off of how emotional Charlie was. To Amaya's perspective, I can see her seeing like Huda Huda and Jeremiah just had sex. And Huda just talked about that to the girls. I don't think Amaya was never going to send Huda home. And then with Taylor, I think Amaya sees Taylor and Alandrea as more consistent because we don't see Alandrea ever talking bad about Taylor in front of the other girls. So I think she just went off of Charlie's most recent actions, which makes sense. But I hate that she did that because Charlie had literally, or Hannah had just confessed how she has come to the realization that Charlie is the one for her. And had Charlie not gone home, I would have said that Charlie and Hannah were a good match, finally.
I
Um,
laughed so hard when Amaya thought that Charlie was sending himself home, and she was like, "No, please, no." And everybody got emotional just for him to make a last minute plea, begging to stay. And it still didn't work. Do you notice that? Like the
it
one
still didn't
person who
work.
gave a speech, it still didn't work. I'm going to chalk up what happened between Amaya and Hannah to a miscommunication. And I think
Yeah.
producers did that intentionally, right? They
Yeah.
immediately went from announcing the recoupling to being like, so now you're going to vote. And I really thought they were going to do what they did in season 6 and give them
Mhm.
the opportunity to collectively talk as a whole,
Me too.
decide what they thought. And instead, everybody just went one by one.
Yep.
On one hand, I love it. On the other, I hate it. What were you about to say?
I was shocked, and I also think producers know who to pick when. Because I think if the order had been changed around, and if Ace and Nick were allowed to vote first, I do believe that Shelley and Austin would have followed suit with voting out Huda.
Now let's talk about Austin because
Yes, let's.
he immediately sat down and goes, "Oh, I fucked up." Why do you think that? Was he scared to vote for Huda? What do you think was going on?
So I actually spoke with a dear friend of mine. Shout out to Effie. We were sending voice notes back and forth, and she brought up a really good point. She thinks that Austin has been very observant in the villa thus far. I will say that, like Austin, he peeps what Ace is doing. He understands what Shelly is doing, and he's been a little vigilant about everybody else. She pointed out that maybe Austin is seeing some things about Taylor that we don't see. Personally, I wanted Taylor to go home last night. I didn't want Charlie to go home because I heard him and Hannah have that fantastic conversation. Hannah did it to herself because she was kissing on Pepe when we had to make that vote. We did what we
We
thought
thought we
we
were
were doing.
doing her a
We
service.
thought we were doing her a solid. So I wanted Charlie to stay after the fact, even with the recoupling. And I didn't want Huda. I kind of wanted Huda to go, and I'll touch on that later. But moreover, I did want Taylor to go home. I really feel like Taylor has not been expressive of his feelings of Alandrea. All they do is talk about, we're good, right? Yeah, we're really good. Oh, I'm really good in this place. And it doesn't develop anything else. I hated how, well, I don't want to jump the gun. I wanted Taylor to go home. I think Austin made a call from my friend's point. She was saying that maybe Austin is observing things that we don't see. From my point, I think Austin threw a vote.
I do too.
I think he
I think
threw
he
it.
just said a name.
Yeah, I think he threw it and he sat down and was like, "Did I make the right decision?" But I really think he just threw a vote.
Hmm. I think so too. And yeah, so here's the thing. I think that what I can't get past is Taylor making the comments about Alandrea and not knowing if he's physically attracted to her. And like that doesn't leave my mind because we,
Mhm.
especially since now we've seen Jalen come in
Yeah.
and be opposite of that. He's very direct. He tells Alandrea that he's interested
Yeah.
in her. He makes an effort to progress things along.
Mhm.
Now, here's the thing. I think Alandria was upset that Taylor was vulnerable. So, because of that, I'm
Mhm.
glad he didn't go home because she was planning their wedding. Like, she even made a joke in one of her confessionals. You're like, I'm planning our wedding. And I think she likes him a lot more than we think she does, sort of like how people thought Serena had no interest in Cordell early on.
You're totally right. It's so obvious that Alandria really likes Taylor. The unfortunate part is Alandria does not see that Taylor does not have the same feelings for her.
And she didn't hear that comment.
And she didn't hear the comment. And something that was really like, I don't know if I would say surprising, but something that like caught me off guard in her conversation with Taylor after she spoke with Jalen, after Jalen asked her for that kiss last night, her conversation with Taylor was like, that relationship seems a little more physical. I really like, our relationship because I think you took the time at the beginning to really worry and care about my mental and like who was I? That's not what he was doing. He didn't care. He
Ace had to
asked
tell him when to care.
Yes, he asked you questions, but I think he was just asking her questions just to avoid any intimacy or physicality because he wasn't sexually attracted to her. And to me, that wasn't Taylor taking his time to get to know your mental. It was Taylor taking his time for another bombshell to walk in. Another bombshell never came in for him. And so he kind of is with you because we don't ever see their conversations deepening. I do respect and understand Alandria's point about Jalen's conversation as well. Like Jalen does have to step up that conversation to really get to know Alandria and to be more vulnerable with himself. But I will say, like, that is true. Jalen is a true countryman.
Hmm.
And for anybody watching who is not from the South, born and raised in Georgia, born and raised in Atlanta, there's a difference between Midwest country and Southern country. Alandria is looking for Southern country. Taylor is Midwest country. Just like how Taylor said, their strengths are different. They're two different types of country men. And Taylor is almost like city slick country, where Jalen is homegrown country. So I do think that her relationship with Jalen is going to take a little bit more time, but Jalen, for one, being more vocal, being more expressive about how he feels about Alandria, and like telling her more about his life and where he grows up and what he does, immediately deeper than Taylor.
I
So
know
Taylor,
more about Jalen than I do Taylor. I think
we
all I
know
know about
nothing
Taylor
about
is he
Taylor.
does rodeo.
We know nothing about Taylor, and he doesn't offer anything else when he's talking to Alondria. It's just questions. And if you allow me to take the space, I will also pivot that to Ace as well.
Please.
Ace and Iris. We all like Ace and Iris's conversation, right? Let me break everybody's heart right now. Ace and Iris they're not a love match. They're conversationalists.
Oh, you're not about to break my heart. All they talked about is what, crows? Like, I'm like, stop.
They have a lot to talk about, but they're not talking about anything, if that makes any sense. They're conversationalists. They're good at having conversations with each other. They're not deepening a connection. But that is Ace's fault because Ace does not offer a lot of things about himself. He likes to be a man of mystery, but asks a lot of questions of the women that he's talking to. And to him, as he's receiving more information, he's taking that as like, we have a connection. I'm like, he's the collector of information and like vulnerability. And he interprets that as a connection. But you're not growing in that connection. You're just having a conversation with each other. I don't like Ace with Shelly. I think we have kind of lost the plot with Shelly. Let us all remember Shelly picked Ace. The only reason why they're not paired together is because Yalissa stole Ace. So the notion of Ace to be like, I'm going to continue to explore my connections, that is great. But I think the commentary online is turning against Shelly because Shelly's upset with him being like, I met that girl 5 minutes ago and I'm interested and I'm going to explore that. I think Shelly has a right to be upset about that. She's been very vocal about her relationship between Austin versus Ace. She's only with Austin because Yalissa stole Ace.
Emphatically agree.
And she kissed Austin, but she picked Ace. So
Hmm.
now she's exploring this relationship with Austin because that's her pair. And she just happens to like Austin, but still wants Ace. So I think Shelly has a right to be like, dang, when are you just gonna keep juggling people around? So yeah, Ace is the collector of vulnerability, and he perceives that as liking someone. He perceives that as an emotional connection, but he's not offering anything the same way that Taylor is not offering anything to Alandrea, but he inquires little things, and
I
that's
think that okay, I have a couple of thoughts. So
yeah.
first of all, Shelley called Ace out on the fact that he his like mystery that he tries to lead with
Hmm.
is a feels like a wall
Yeah, it
to
is.
her. And I don't think he liked that. Like, to be honest, like, I don't think he's really looking for those types of conversations. I think he's looking
Hmm.
for the types of conversations like how he had with Iris.
Yeah.
I also think that I even had somebody comment last night in my live when I was talking about this episode, and they said, you know, they thought that what Shelley was doing, having Ace over here and Austin over here, was worse than what Ace did to Amaya. And I completely disagree for exactly the same reasons that we were just talking about. And to take it a step further, neither of those men are seriously pursuing her. Ace has
Yes.
glossed over her. Austin puts in no effort. And we
Yes.
see this episode how tired Shelley is of
Hmm.
Austin coming to her defeated and looking for acknowledgement and reassurance. He's
Hmm.
not able to self soothe. And because Ace is, that's the one quality I think that keeps her going back to him
Yeah.
as well. They also had a history
Yeah.
before they got here. And that's what makes how Ace is going through the villa even more frustrating because we know that they had a little bit of a flirtation, a little bit of mystery already in the relationship. But he is preemptively, you know, sits down with Shelley and he's like, she wants to vent about the weird conversation she just had with Austin.
Hmm.
And Ace is like, well, he did exactly what he did to Amaya. Well, wait a moment. Let me just start with I had
Yeah.
a great conversation with Iris, and I'm going to be excited to pursue that connection.
Yes. I'm so glad you called that out. I because Shelly doesn't have a match yet, and I don't want my criticism of Ace to be my exemplifying of Austin because Austin is literally
Totally.
doing nothing.
Nothing.
Austin is Shelly's bestie right now,
Hmm.
and they kiss during challenges. That is really about it. Austin, I think, is a good friend in the villa. I think everybody enjoys Austin. I think Shelly enjoys his company, but overall, he's not doing anything. And immediately we see, as soon as a new bombshell comes in that shows any interest in Ace and shows that she wants to kind of chase him a little bit. Like Iris is not a chaser, but you can tell she is wanting to put forth a little bit more effort with Ace because she has a connection with him, and he immediately stopped with Shelly. Like there's been no dates, there's been no yoga, there's been no
Hmm.
meditation.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, he didn't even make her breakfast.
He made Iris
Yeah,
breakfast.
Iris breakfast. So again, Ace is a conversationalist. He is like Thanos. He's collecting everybody's vulnerability stones, and then at the end, he's going to be like, "I have five witty secrets."
So, like, make a crown with the stones. That's what you can do with that.
Yes, because he's not deepening these connections, but it is an illusion. And it's very easy to get caught up in the illusion of having a good conversation with someone versus having a romantic connection with someone. And Ace is now, I wrote in my notes, Ace is naturally flirty, naturally flirtatious. I think he was like a Leo
Yep.
sun, Leo moon. I mean,
Yes.
I too am a Leo, and I understand the natural flirtation. I can be having a conversation with someone, and they are like, "Ah," it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I didn't mean for you to take it like that."
Mhm.
Ace knows that he has that flirtation. Iris called it out in his eyes, like he's got flirty, deep-ish eyes, and then he asks questions, good questions, which would be good for other couples to maybe take a little note out of his book on how to learn more about partners, but he really doesn't have an interest in any of them. He views vulnerability as connection, but he's not offering any vulnerability to anyone, maybe except for Jeremiah. That's the only person he's been emotional about the whole season.
Now that's a good transition because let's talk about Jeremiah and the
Let's.
pancakes. Okay. So Huda is worked up over these pancakes that she got served raw. The raw in the middle, they're uncooked. She's upset. Okay. She said, I need this protein. You fucked up my breakfast.
Yep.
And they have a conversation. And this was a prior episode. And what ended up happening was Huda told Jeremiah that she doesn't think that a grown man should be making her food. So basically a grown man should not be making another grown woman food. You should do that for me. And she sort of made it sound like Taylor saw that she was sitting there and suffering with her pancake and just stepped in, saved the day, and was like, "Oh my God, did he serve you a raw pancake? What a feeble man. I'll cook it for you." Never mind Jeremiah. That's how she kind of pitched it to him. And then we come to find out that actually she asked Taylor, "Hey, can you make me another pancake?
Mhm.
Do your hands not work?" I'm confused. That confused me.
Yeah.
But this episode, we saw Jeremiah, in my mind, this is where I'm getting to my question. Try to extend some grace to Huda. We learned this episode a couple things. Jeremiah had been in therapy for 2 years, okay?
Mhm.
And he doesn't think that he should have to read Huda's mind and that she should communicate things to him. And I felt like him saying, "Were you trying to push me away?" with an
Mhm.
incident like the pancakes was extending an olive branch some grace. How did you see that?
So, one thing I wrote from the episode on Friday was that now that we up until Friday, I think America was convinced that Huda and Jeremiah were equally guilty. And I think a lot of people started off the season thinking that Jeremiah was the master manipulator. And another TikToker, I wish I saved it, but I wish I could quote them on there, but they made a comment about how we have not been getting any of Jeremiah's confessionals. And I didn't realize that until that TikTok creator pointed that out. I was like, oh my God, we haven't. And I
Mhm.
think that was done on purpose, especially after the first episodes. I think producers selectively made a choice to let America believe that Jeremiah was a master manipulator, especially off of that comment from the doc when he said, when we win all of this. I think the producers at that
Mhm.
moment decided
Forgot about that.
we're not going to show any confessionals because the audience is going to take that and they're going to run with it. And boy, did we sprint, right? But now that we are getting Jeremiah's confessionals as of like Thursday's episode, I wrote in my notes, now that we're getting Jeremiah's confessionals and thoughts, is he innocent?
Let me answer your question immediately with, I don't think Jeremiah is innocent, but I'm also really, really intrigued by your thoughts. I'm very, so keep going. Please continue.
So I agree with you. After watching the full of Friday's episode and last night's episode, Jeremiah is not innocent, but Jeremiah is not as guilty as I think we were producer led to believe. I do think that Jeremiah had a Freudian slip on that doc with Huda talking about when we win. I do not think that that was as tactical as we all perceived it to be in the moment. But I do think that I do think that Jeremiah finds comfort in the toxicity of his relationship. And why I say comfort is because of his comment about being in therapy for 2 years and reflecting on his parents. my notes in that moment was like, "Thank you so much for mentioning that," because I wasn't able to understand the disconnect between what everybody else in the house saw, what we as viewers saw, versus what Jeremiah was doing and what he was accepting from Huda. The fact that he said he's been in therapy for 2 years, I'm gonna be real with everybody that's listening. Just because you're in therapy, you can be learning the tools and feel really
Hmm.
confident on your tools until it's time to put those things in action. And he's not
You don't
saying he's
apply them.
therapist right now, so he can't he can't run in the middle of these episodes and be like, how do you get it at, like,
Mhm.
he can't do that. So I think this might be the first time of him being in therapy where he's actually had to, like, trust his own thoughts, trust his own understanding of the situation. And we actually are witnessing him fighting back and forth in his head, and you can see it on camera. And that has been the I think the saddest thing for me to watch for
Mhm.
Jeremiah,
Mhm.
especially because he spoke well about his family and
Mhm.
about recognizing unhealthy communication habits, and his parents had been married for X amount of years, and knowing the type of relationship that he wants. And we see him battling internally with, is this am I tripping or am I not tripping?
Mm.
Um, and we see that, and I hate that. I hate that that you can see that happening. And I do believe that there is still a little bit of the plotting to the end. I don't think Jeremiah is innocent with that comment. I think it was, again, a Freudian slip. I do think that his original plan was to get in the house, couple up with somebody, and ride it to the end. I don't think he realized the person that he was coupling up with was really gonna give him that ride.
I have so many thoughts. Okay. So, in regards to the initial edit of him saying when we win,
Mhm,
I think that I didn't think that Jeremiah was the master manipulator. What I
mhm,
did think from that moment was, okay, Jeremiah's willing to stay in this relationship for and take it to the end, even if he's unhappy. That's what I thought
yes.
initially. So I'm going to agree with you. By seeing his confessionals, I'm starting to see, oh, Jeremiah is not as happy as we're being led to believe.
Mhm,
However, I this is not applicable to abusive relationships, okay? However, what you're not leaving, you're choosing. And he is staying with Huda. We heard this episode, I think it was this conversation actually, where she says to him, "You said what? You told
yes.
someone something negative about our relationship? Don't ever tell a bitch about our relationship, and
Mhm,
much less something bad about our relationship." And he said, "You're so cute. You are just
yes.
so cute."
Yes, that is where I say Jeremiah is content in the toxicity.
Mhm.
It's likely something that he
Totally
went
comfortable
to
there.
therapy for, but
Mhm.
again, this might be his first time, like, you
Trying to
can
say no.
you can see him trying to use the tools in his head, but
Mhm.
it's not working out for multiple reasons, for the reasons of him wanting to make it to the end, for the reasons of who's he going to choose if he's not picking Huda, what is going to be that's going to be explosive. And him probably thinking about his edit on the show. There are multiple things that you see working at force with Jeremiah and his thought process. And I do believe that he finds comfort in a little bit of toxicity, but I also think that he is fighting against his choice that he made. He wanted to make it to the end. He picked Huda. Huda is his physical type, but he did not know that the bag she was going to open up on him. And
Now,
now,
the other question I have,
mhm,
am really curious for your take on. It's very hard for me to say this. For people who don't know my content, this is your first video listening. I rarely like to say, I rarely, first of all, agree with a man. And then second of all, I really have so much grace that I extend towards women in general that I really try not to say anything that could be misconstrued or come across as slut shaming.
mhm,
But what I am watching, because I don't want to make it sound like Jeremiah is not playing any part in this. Okay,
mhm,
because we're seeing a very limited edit, and I want to acknowledge that. But Huda to me another reason I think that you like you said, we're seeing this internal conflict between Jeremiah, because here's the thing, his friends are telling him no. His friends that he's created in this villa are trying to be the voices of reason, and he's even ignoring them. He's like, no, all of you are wrong,
Yeah.
we're correct. However, when an escalation arises, he tries to be firm with Huda, like, are you dead ass? Why would you say that? I don't
Mhm.
like when you talk to me that way. And right after, she goes to physicality, and it might not even be like right away, although typically it is. I don't want to act like Huda is this, like we said, master manipulator, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, and she might not even realize that she's doing this, which is why I've emphatically said Huda doesn't need to be on Love Island, she needs to be
Yes.
in therapy, truly. And I say that with a loving way, not to be pretentious. But
Yes.
every time they have a disagreement,
Mhm.
she I don't know, like puts it on him. Like she's like she either kisses him, or if she feels like the relationship is in an insecure spot, she sort of like marks her
Mhm.
territory, whether at night she makes sure that they're intimate,
Yeah.
or quite literally marks her territory like on
Yeah.
his neck with a hickey. And watching this makes me sad, because I'm assuming this comes from a place of insecurity, and I'm wondering what you're thinking.
Um, for TV, Huda and Jeremiah are fantastic television.
Absolutely.
Um, me watching this, I have
Hmm.
had visceral reactions. The past 3 episodes, Thursday, Friday, and last night, have become increasingly difficult for me to watch
Same.
Huda. First, let me say, I'm a big person on names, and let's just go ahead and call out the fact that her name is not Huda. It's not a who, it's a huh.
Yes.
Huda. I just had to say that out loud because there's a lot of people that are like Huda. It's not Huda Beauty. It's
No.
Huda. But it has been very hard to watch Huda on
Mhm.
these past couple episodes. And again, fantastic television, but also like I need her to go home. Um, I know I just said I wanted Taylor to go home because for the show purposes,
Mhm.
like
Protect Alandrea at all costs. Yes.
yes, protect the Landry at all costs. However, there was another part of me last night that was hoping that Austin would have picked Huda, or
Mhm.
maybe Amaya would have picked
Mhm.
Huda. I know Amaya would have been a
Same.
stretch. I wanted Huda to go home
Mhm.
last night because the longer that she stays in Love Island,
Mhm.
the harder her transition is going to be back into the real world.
Agreed.
We and everybody else online have been very vocal and about what she's doing in the villa. That is her choosing. Like, we are commenting on your actions. But I also see an anxious attachment style.
Yes.
Like she said, I'm afraid that people are gonna leave me. And that shows up in needing constant validation. That shows up in always questioning and overthinking everything your partner does. Where's the protein? You should have been the one to make me breakfast. Do I believe that she's also throwing in some manipulation tactics? Yes, but
Mhm.
I don't think that stems from her being a master manipulator.
Mhm.
I think that stems from her insecurity and her toxicity from previous relationships and wanting to make sure that the guy is on her side.
May I say something before I forget it
Yes.
real quick? I
Yeah.
think that Jeremiah is as guilty as Huda in terms
Yes.
of enjoying a toxic relationship. But here's where I
Yes.
want to make a difference. I don't think Jeremiah is manipulating Huda, and I
Yes.
do think that that is happening on the other end.
Correct. I thank you for saying that because I agree. I think that they are both equal participants in keeping this thing going. Do we see more of Jeremiah's contemplation about what's right and what's wrong? Yes.
Mhm.
Do we see more of Huda manipulating situations? Yes. It was quite obvious when she said, "Another man should never be making me breakfast." Personally, I kind of agree. You're in the villa. Why is another man making you breakfast? However, that's not how that happens.
Mhm.
You asked.
Yes.
You asked.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like he was like, "I see your man is slipping, girl. I'm gonna
Yes.
throw some bacon in this pan." No.
Mhm.
So I do think that she is manipulating the situation, but I do think we are seeing her anxious and avoidant attachment style showing up. And
Absolutely.
that also translates into her being hypersexual.
Mhm.
when it's time for them to have a difficult conversation. Huda preached a whole lot at the beginning about her being the most emotionally mature because she's a mommy. And you may be emotionally mature enough to parent your child on a daily. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are able to have true conversations and true deepening moments with the person on a non-toxic level, especially
Mhm.
in the villa where everything is like at hyper speed as well. I think she felt chosen by Jeremiah. I think she felt like this is my type, and I think he was kind of pulling up and putting the game on her. But now
Absolutely.
it is totally turned into something where
The sex
for
with
the
the lights on, like, let's just hit that while we're here, okay? Like, I think that's what was happening. He was like, "Oh, like, this is crazy. We have to at least wait until the lights go on."
I one thing I appreciate about Love Island, and I've had this conversation with a few of my friends, is it's not as hypersexual as
Too hot to
people
handle.
perceive it to be. Yes, it's not like
Mhm.
too hot to handle. Yeah, they're having sex.
Mhm.
On Love Island, there's a lot of kissing during the
Yes.
games, but outside of that, even though the people are sleeping in the same bed together,
Mhm.
you don't get a lot of like really intense sexual moments.
No,
You
not
get a lot of
really.
cuddles, you might get a little finger pop, but they were finger popping.
Way I did not expect you to say that.
Just try to keep it classy. You might get a finger pop like every now and again, some cuddles. Like Casa Amor is really where shit goes down. But like the fact that they're already so advanced in their relationship, but we don't know anything about um Huda, really. We know that she's a mom. Great. We found out that Jeremiah was like a master Uno player or something like that.
Yes.
So we're not getting any of that information. I absolutely hated seeing them have sex. I said, "Oh my God, that might be the biggest mistake
Mhm.
both of you could have made in this
Absolutely.
villa." Because
Mhm.
now I don't care as much as we want to say that sex is just sex. We should all be able to recognize that their sex is not just sex. That is
Mhm.
about to emotionally tie Huda up,
Mhm.
and it's going to bring Jeremiah in with it as well. She does that because she's not prepared to have difficult conversations. She
Mhm.
leads with her sexuality. That is what she is comfortable with. That is what has gotten her the answers, responses, things that she's wanted in the past. That is what she knows how to use. And that is what she's using now. Do I believe that it is all 100% a conscious decision? No.
Same.
So I want to say, like, do I think she's making those decisions on purpose? Yes. Do I
Mhm.
think that they are conscious decisions to manipulate? No. I
Mhm.
think that's just how what she has learned
Mhm.
works to get her the things that she wants.
Yes.
To end the conversations that are too difficult for her, she uses sex. That's just the reality of it. But we are seeing her attachment style so big and bright. It's like on the main stage. It is gonna be disastrous this episode tonight. Well, I don't think the episode tonight will necessarily be disastrous. It's what Jeremiah decides to do going forward.
I think
But
Jeremiah is gonna sleep outside with Huda, and I think that he's not going to sleep even in the same bed as Iris, if I'm being honest.
I think so as well, especially since they've had sex.
Mhm. And I'm
He
gonna send them home for that.
I now that this elimination has happened,
Mhm.
Charlie's gone. That was Hannah's fault. You should have been kissing on Pepe. But now that Charlie's gone and there's going to be another elimination sooner or later, Huda has to go home.
Yep.
We have
Yes.
to send, I'm going to say we as America, we need to send Huda home for her mental health. Um,
Genuinely, and safety, because people
genuine,
have put explicit information about her on there, and I don't
yes.
think it's fair that she has no phone and no idea that that's happening.
Watching last night's episode and watching a recoupling, as happy as I was to see Iris be paired with Jeremiah, at the same time, I had a sinking feeling that this could mentally destroy a young woman that we're watching on television because this is all real for her. We're seeing the edited cut version. We
Mhm.
don't know exactly what's going on in the villa, but just imagine 24 hours in a day with this person every single day for the next 6 weeks is a crazy attachment to have to someone, especially on the level that they are. I need at the next elimination for Huda to go home, and I
And
need
she's
for her
not
to
compatible with the style of Love Island either. She's not open.
no. No, she's not open, but I need her to go home, and I need her family to be more than prepared to support her and really be able to pick her up. I need for her not to have her phone for like 30 days. I need for her to immediately go like some type of relaxation place and to just not tap in when she gets home. And I mean that like again, fantastic television drama. We all like it.
Fantastic
But
television.
this when we if we talk about Love Islanders from the past who have taken their lives, this is something that I would hope that her family is prepared to take very seriously when she leaves the island. She should not have come to Love Island. I don't think she was prepared for this type of experience. I'm curious to know what would have happened if she would have been paired with somebody who wasn't like her type, or if she was paired up like how Shelly is with Austin, to see how she explores more. I think Huda would have been a lot more fun.
Mhm.
But I do also think that she came in here to find a husband.
I think that this is how she moves. Like, I think that it's like when she likes someone, it's honeymoon stage, it's love
Mhm,
bombing, it's all in. And that's why genuinely she needs therapy. Like
mhm.
and I'm not saying that to be, I hate when there's like this notion of like people like reveling in other women's like insecurities. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm being genuine when I say that it makes me sad to see. Like it
Yeah.
makes me sad to see. And as frustrating as she is to me, I'm realizing that something larger is going on there, even in the fact of how she is insecure about being a mom. She
Yeah.
does not love that about herself yet. And granted, this is because of men and their reactions to her. I understand that. I understand that she has had that used against her, but like, she's basically she moving forward, this relationship was doomed because it didn't start honest. It was so doomed from the beginning.
Yes. Agreed. And I think to your point, to clarify, um, Huda loves being a mother to her daughter. She
Absolutely.
doesn't like being a mom as her persona.
She realizes the stigma that men her age have
Mhm.
and sometimes have expressed to her
Yeah.
about women who are mothers. And I'm sure she's moving through this space where she tries to undersell the responsibility that it is to be a
Mhm.
mother, because already men feel like they're
Yeah.
trapped when they're in a relationship and being monogamous, and like it's already such a
Mhm.
burden to like keep your dick inside, really. So she's like, she's trying to, I get it. Like
Yeah.
she's worthy of love as well. She
Yeah.
is. And it's unfortunate that whomever she's dealt with in the past has treated her in that way. And that's why I
Mhm.
want her to leave Love Island, because I don't think this is a place to find someone. Like, look at Uncle Nick betrayed her last night. Okay, Uncle Nick.
Now, I'm so glad you brought up Uncle Nick. Okay, because I am loving Nick down this season.
Me too, he's hilarious. Except that, like, okay, listen, should he
Okay,
have been
wait,
able to
no, what?
participate?
I when they went in that room, I was like, Alandrea, don't. And when they kissed, I was like, no, oh my God, this is gross. I don't know what's going on with Nick's face, his cold sores, this other stuff going on. I don't know. Producers, please like gloss, like add some tape over it or something. But I'm loving Nick down this season.
Mhm.
What I will say, I don't think Nick threw Huda under the bus. I
I don't
think
either.
and Huda had a genuine conversation about her being a mom, him being a sperm donor. Cool. I think Nick likes Huda. I think everybody in the villa likes Huda as an individual.
Hmm.
But I do think that Nick has been a star player this season because Nick is asking the questions that everybody else needs to be asking.
He's asking the right
Yes,
questions.
asking the right questions. When Nick multiple times has sat down with Jeremiah and asked him really important questions. I think last night's question that Nick asked, let me pull up my notes, was probably the best question that Nick could have ever asked. Um oh darn it, I didn't write down the exact
Did
question.
Huda's reaction scare you to the
Thank
challenge? Was it that?
No, 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 no. It was it that one? No, it wasn't that one. It was after they were all sitting around the fire pit, and it wasn't. Was it his reaction? Yes, it was. I'm sorry. You're totally correct. Because my notes literally say Nick is asking Jeremiah the right questions. I don't know why I didn't write down the
I
questions.
literally have the same note. Are we twins? Nick is
We are.
asking the right questions.
I'm
This
writing
is supposed to be
everything.
Hannah.
So yes, about when Nick asked Jeremiah about like, how do you feel about Huda's reaction to that? What Nick is trying to get Jeremiah to realize is what you're seeing now is honestly tame. And it's tame because you're sitting face to face with her. What is going to happen when you're long distance? When Jeremiah said, I think we'll have the foundation that's good enough that when we get out, if we get out of here and continue this thing, if I want to go out with the boys, she won't mind. In my mind, I'm like, y'all don't have that type of conflict resolution right now.
She wants your location in the villa. You're right
And
next to her.
she asked you that when y'all don't even have phones. And he said, I don't do that. I think that's weird. Okay. So why would you think that y'all would build the foundation? I mean, I'm sure he's thinking like we'll continue to build that, but I'm like, the flags are flagging,
Yes.
Jeremiah, and Nick sees them and Ace sees them too.
Hmm.
However, I think Ace sees some things. Sorry. Ace sees some things that we don't see because we got that little clip about tonight where Ace and Jeremiah are clearly in a kerfuffle
Hmm.
with each other. And you hear Ace basically saying that, he thinks Jeremiah has an ulterior motive. I think Ace is seeing some things that we don't see. Ace is our petty um overseer. So
Hmm.
Ace sees everything and he's
Hmm.
always petty about it. I think Ace sees Huda for who she is, but I think also Ace sees Jeremiah for who he is. So that Freudian slip from the beginning, even though it was a Freudian slip about
Hmm.
wait. I still think that Jeremiah had that in his head from the beginning that he was gonna get with somebody and stay with them the whole time, make it to the end. And I think Ace sees that.
The same way that like you could that okay, you let's say I'm going on a date. Let's say I'm single and I'm going on a date. And I
Mhm.
go on a date and halfway through the date the guy discloses to me that he owns a record label or he's a
Mhm.
general surgeon. I'm going to hear that and even though it's not going to come out of my mouth, I'm going to think cha-ching,
Mhm.
cha-ching. It's
Mhm.
just going to happen. Okay?
Yep.
When Huda said she was a mom, it did just happen in his head. He thought, "Well, we're winning. What a great story."
Yeah.
What a great
Yeah.
story. That's exactly what I think
Mhm.
happened with his mind.
I
What's your
think
favorite ref? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think Jeremiah saw Huda coming out with the baby as like that was his winning. That was his winning moment because
Yeah.
he's thinking, who's going to vote out a mom?
Who's going to vote us out, mom and dad?
She's literally a mom.
Yeah.
Um, but
Hmm.
again, we see more and more and more and more that like Jeremiah is also realizing maybe I do need to make a swap out of this. What was your question though?
It's kind of shady, but what's your favorite reference that Ace has been called online? Like people have said like lots of things. They've called Ace like lots of things. Like do you have a favorite?
I can't remember off the top of my head some of the names, but I think somebody called Ace like the premium like pot stirrer. And
Mm.
Ace to me, Ace is good television.
Oh, he's great
Ace,
television.
excellent television. Ace understands. Um, Ace does self-promotion right. When we are self-production, when people say,
Hmm.
"Oh, this person is self-producing themselves and it's bad," Ace self-produces in a good way. He's not finding a match. He is in his head. I think him, the way he explores women is the way he explores women in the real world, and he thinks that that is the correct way to explore women. So,
I think he's finding that he should be behind the camera. I think that he's finding from this, like honestly, Ace, go cause a ruckus behind the
I,
camera, be a producer. Let us see. I don't know. He
I
would be good.
I think Ace is almost like a who is it from last season? Rob. Where Rob was just really good television last season, but he never really found like a match. That is Ace. So I think Ace will end up going all the way towards the end and end up being like the sixth couple or something with whoever he's paired with. I think Ace is gonna end up being in the villa forever. But
Wow, what a
I think
prediction.
but I think he will get voted out before we get to the final four. I do think he will make it to like top six. Um, but Ace is good television. Ace is a petty pot stirrer for sure. But I think it's because Ace being a conversationalist and Ace being able to ask certain questions to get to elicit certain responses, Ace is seeing things that we are not seeing. Ace is getting conversation and information that we are not getting as viewers from the edit. And I think producers are doing that on purpose, and it's almost like to lead up to this big explosion tonight. But Ace is a petty pot stirrer, but he's a petty pot stirrer because he pays attention.
When he like fled out a full throat laugh at Huda getting at Jeremiah getting coupled up with Iris,
Because
and
he knows. And I think Ace laughed for multiple reasons.
uh-huh.
The first reason is
America's petty.
Ace knows America's petty because Ace knows that Iris should have been paired with him for one.
100%.
Ace also knows that America made this decision and they made it on purpose for
We
two.
did that with for
He knows
sure.
that. And Ace sees through
Huda and
Jeremiah
Jeremiah.
and he sees through Huda.
Are we
Absolutely.
calling them Judah though? Like I know that's that you don't pronounce her name Huda, but is there couple's name Judah? Because that's what I heard that it was. Or is
I
it pronounced Judah and I've been saying it wrong?
I don't want to call. I don't know. I haven't seen any nicknames.
Okay, I've only seen Judas or like Judah around. That's the only one that I've seen.
And people are calling them Judas. That is crazy. That's so mean.
The biblical scorn.
So mean.
Okay, let's end here because I know that you have to wrap. My parting thoughts for the episode, I'm going to give mine and then I'm going to ask you yours.
Yeah.
Parting thoughts for the episode, it was a phenomenal episode.
Mhm.
I don't want Huda's feel. I'm not trying to humble Huda. That's not the intention. I want her to go home. I want
Mhm.
her to go home, or at the very least, she can stay, her and Jeremiah, if they explore other connections, because I
Mhm.
would like to see and be interested to see what their personalities are. In
Mhm.
regards to Charlie going home, I'm glad that he went home. I think that he is a Timu Tom Ellis. He's MAGA and alleged Zionist. So I'm glad he went home. And Hannah's sister is too, because I saw a TikTok where she said, Hannah, you'll be fine. Charlie's MAGA. The only time I felt bad for you was when you sat there and cried with his picture like he had gone to war. That did make her feel bad for her sister. So those are my parting thoughts. What are yours?
Okay, I'll start with Charlie. I didn't know that Charlie was MAGA Anna's.
Well, he's from the UK, so yeah.
I didn't even think to look into his political affiliation because he's not from here. So I'm gonna say that aside, which is a big thing aside, y'all. Let's just act like I never heard that information. So that aside, I felt bad for Charlie going home because Charlie only went home because Hannah was being fast on last week's.
We thought she wanted Pepe's pee-pee. Like that's what we thought.
Well, that's what you wanted, girl. Um, Although, I would have rather Pepe been paired up with Sierra, 100%. Even
Okay.
after seeing Hannah with Pepe, I would have rather Pepe been with Sierra because I think that would have shook up the house and a couple of interactions just enough for me. So I hated to see Charlie go home because I do think that he really did like Hannah and they both expressed themselves right before that elimination.
Mhm.
What the timing was fucked for them.
Did you feel a breeze on his way out? How fast he swings his arms and how widespread his shoulders are?
He was pissed. He was livid. So I felt bad for Charlie going home. But that was Hannah's fault. Oh well, girl, we thought we were giving you what you wanted. Um, it's time for Huda to go home, and not because I don't like Huda. It's really
Mm.
because I care for Huda, and it is time for her to wrap it up. The longer you stay, the harder it is going to be for you to readjust because I don't see her calming back down. I just see that intensifying. So Hood has got to go. I think the girls and the guys are going to start to question this on tonight's episode about why they even got split up. Um, I think Alandrea will end up being thankful to be paired with Jalen. I honestly think Taylor is not going to keep turning it up. I think Taylor is about to tune out and wait for the next bombshell. We will see. I think Shelly, please producers bring in another bombshell for Shelly. My goodness.
Fine. Like jaw dropping.
John, get my girl out of the trenches,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think Amaya, I am really enjoying Amaya.
Me
Outside of the
too.
decision, I don't
I'm
necessarily get.
enjoying her.
I get why she made the decision. I don't agree with her decision. I'm enjoying Amaya, so I would like a fiery person to come in for Amaya. I thought that was going to be Pepe, but clearly he is more interested in Hannah. I do not trust Pepe though. I don't trust that man.
No.
And what I think is going to happen is that another bombshell is going to come in, and he's going to end up dropping
Yes.
Hannah, and Hannah is going to get eliminated. Um, I don't feel either way about
That's
them
a good prediction. I think you're right.
because I don't think anybody else is really interested in Hannah. Hannah was so tied up in Charlie. Pepe's the only one. I think Pepe is ready to float if somebody tells him to get on their boat.
You'll float too, he
He'll
said.
float too. Yes.
Well, let's wrap here. Thank you for giving me all of your predictions. Thank you for spending time with me this morning. Make sure that you are subscribed to me, Positively Uncensored.
Please.
Make sure that you go look up Janae. Tell everyone where to follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me, Janae Breon, JANAEBREAHN, on everything. I think you can find me even on Facebook. I don't do a lot on Facebook, but Instagram and TikTok, Janae Breon. I'm taking new clients in the state of Georgia. You can always go to janaebreon.com and book a session with me.
I'm also going to be linking all of her services below. She also has a workbook that you can download on her website. I'm going to be linking all of that in the description. Like I said, make sure that you give this video a like, leave a comment, tell us your predictions, and
Yes.
stay tuned until we talk next episode. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Leah.
Yay!